let's go ahead and get started. The first thing that I want to say is this is all about remote investing. So how to work with contractors in a remote investing business model. Now, there's a lot of things that even if you're not investing remotely, it will still be beneficial to know some of these things, right? So what we want to do is like from a remote investing perspective, it's no secret, Stacy and I have not been in any of our properties. We basically purchased all of them without stepping foot in them, and we had them all rehabbed and we didn't even go to them. So we want to teach that system. So that's kind of the premise of what we're going to teach. So the first thing to know is that we use a system that it's kind of like for lack of a better phrase, a buddy system, if you will. So you have your contractors, but you also have an inspector that is with you, plus you have a realtor. So in our mastermind group, we teach you how to go and set up your teams in remote areas where you can vet those teams out and you can put them to work finding properties for you from a realtor perspective, teach you how to get those realtors to send you deals that are lucrative for you, and then how to submit offers quickly so that you can get your offer in and get your property under contract faster than anybody else. And then what we do is we teach you how to build your team from a contractor perspective. So how to line up 10 contractors and interview them and make sure that they're a good fit. And then how to look for inspectors that can help you go inspect the property since you won't be there, if that makes sense. Should make sense. But so what we always recommend is you can find contractors anywhere. One of the biggest questions that we have from folks that have been investing for a long time is, but wait a minute, like how am I supposed to find a contractor if I'm not in the area? And the first thing I want to say is, I don't want to come across condescending, but how would you find them anyway? If you were, let's just say you're in Cleveland, Ohio, and you're at your office and you need to find a contractor, I highly doubt you're going to get up and go start door knocking for contractors, right? You're probably going to pull up your computer, do a search for contractors, find some, and then have them come to the property. It's really no different from a remote perspective. So it's even like, well, what do I do when something goes wrong in my rental and the plumbing is out? Well, how would you find a plumber if it was in your own market? It's not like you're going to go door knocking for plumbers either. You're going to do the same thing. You're going to research for them online, find them, vet them, and then send them to the property. So there's really, like, once you realize that and it clicks, you can start putting processes and procedures in place that support that so that you don't have to be there and you could just be a CEO running your business and getting all of your rentals or flips, however, whatever part of the business model you're doing. So the first thing that we do is we talk about like, take your time to hire the right contractor, right? So once you have a property under contract, the first thing that we teach is you want to get at least 3 to 5 contractors that you're speaking to and ask them specific questions. We have a whole checklist on what to ask them for and what to look for. And you're really trying to get them to go to the property and bid on what would it look like to rehab it, renovate it, whatever word it is that you use in your business. What does that look like? What's the scope of work? And have them give you back a scope of work with a bid, right? So let's say you send and you dispatch 5 contractors. When you dispatch those 5 contractors, and they all go out and they come back and you get 5 bids, one of the things that you will see is trying to find out, well, what does the bid look like? Here's part of how you pick, okay? Because you might get 5 bids and one of them might be super expensive, right? And most people are like, oh shit, that's too expensive. I'm not doing that one. He's crazy. One of them might be super cheap and you start thinking, oh shit, I can make a lot more money if I use that cheap one. And I caution you that if they're going out there and you're seeing, another thing that we teach is how to analyze a deal or from a property from pictures and comps to get a good idea of what's it going to take to renovate it so that you know, and you have a baseline for that. So once you know what it's going to take to renovate that and you're seeing this contractor's bid come back and you're seeing it and you're thinking, wow, that's really cheap, but he's not looking at it from the perspective of the changes I want to see or how I want to renovate it. Right there's a pretty good red flag that the scope and the vision of how they view a property and how they can turn it, it's not within your wheelhouse. It's not in your business model. And it's so cheap. So that's probably what you can expect from that contractor throughout the course of rehabbing that deal. You can probably expect that they may overlook things. They may not be detail oriented. or they might not see something that could be a problem later, right? So their scope and their critical thinking skills might not be on the level that you need. And trust me, I've got 5 bids back and had ones like $25,000 cheaper than the rest of the bids, and thought to myself in the beginning, oh shit, I could save more money. But you know, I'm not gonna lie, I learned an $80,000 lesson very early on that, oh man, they overlooked a post and pier foundation issue that I didn't know about. And going through that process taught me a lot about going for the cheapest is not always the best idea. Sometimes you pay for it in the end anyways, and you don't want to get in that situation. So the contractor that you're looking for is the one that you know the scope of work based on what you've looked on from the pictures of the property that the realtor sent you. You also know the scope of work based on the pictures of the comps that the realtor sent you. So you have an idea of what finishes you want on this property, and you have an idea of what it needs to look like in order to sell, right? And to get, or if you're going to hold it, what it's going to take to hold it and rent it at the rents that you want. So when you're doing that process, you already have like an unconscious view of what you expect on that bid. So when you're coming back and you're thinking, man, this bid's really high, but it's everything that we need, I would call and ask, hi, Steve, I just noticed that you said hi. I would call and ask them why it is so big. Like, what's the deal? And just like on a line item, ask some questions, because sometimes they might see something that you didn't see because you're not there, right? So I've had a contractor come back and tell me, hey, this is the deal. You have this issue here and there's a crack in the foundation here. I'm not sure what that looks like. And so I have actually been able to back out of deals because of a contractor's high ass bid that came back and surfaced an issue that I wouldn't have seen any other way, right? And so when you're looking for that, but you also have an inspector that can go in there and look for those items also and kind of match up. So the contractor that's doing the bid, you're looking at that, and then you can also send an inspector to look at it, and you can mirror the two, match them up and look and see, like, are there any gaps? Which one's in the most alignment? Now, that in and of itself is like the step one. You have like, that could be a red flag if it's too low, if it's too high, but you just want to ask a lot of questions. You could even call the one who gave a really low bid and ask it, how come it's so low? You know, you're $25,000 cheaper than everybody else. And I got to know, like, what's your secret sauce? And when you just ask those real questions, you find out whether or not they might say, hey, you know what? The guy down the street might think that you need this, but here's where I see that you could save some money because you only need this. So there might be a rhyme or reason to why their bid is so low. So either way, you want to try and vet it out and find out, right? And through that phone call, if you find out that they're just off their rocker and don't notice things, that's clearly not the contractor for you. You want to go with the one that uses their brain, thinks through things, and can tell you, this is the next like problem you're going to run into if you don't address this, right? So that is the process of trying to get bids out. I would say 3 to 5, send 3 to 5 out, and then get the bids back and start vetting it. Now, as you're meeting with contractors and you're having those conversations, it's like the perfect segue, absolute perfect segue to start interviewing them, right? To find out more. So we always say you don't pay for anything until it's finished, right? You'll have some contractors that say, hey man, I need a big deposit in order to get started. And that right there is a flag in and of itself. If they don't have enough capital, that means they're pretty small. And if they don't have enough capital in the beginning to get started, you're going to face that throughout the deal, where you're trying to get this contractor to do work, but they're just saying, man, I ran out of money and I need more money. And you might also find that those types of contractors, what they're doing is they're having you give them the money to finish the deal they're on so that they can get to your deal. And there's all kinds of red flags about that. So you want to start looking for the contractors. They have the capital to get started. They are not requiring more than a 10% deposit. They're not asking for a lot of money up front. They got it under control, right? The second thing is, look at the scope of work that they're sending. Is it well laid out? Is it organized? Does it look like the line items? Like, what's the line item for labor? What's the line item for materials? So you can see how they are planning the work. Because if they're planning that work to a detailed level, you can expect that they're going to plan your renovation that way too. So it's everything up front that you see, right? You get the best of anybody's behavior within the first 90 days that you meet them. And so they're going to give their best in up front. And if their best is kind of like shoddy shit and the whole proposal is just kind of wonky and it's just chunked at high levels, and they tell you stuff like, oh yeah, I really can't forecast that. I don't know because it all depends on this. And once I get behind the wall and I see this, like if they're not savvy enough and don't have enough experience to have dealt with those things and know how to factor that into their costs, their expenses, and what they charge, then they're probably not the contractor for you. I hope that makes sense. So now the next best thing that I always get from people is, okay, so I got the bids, I found the best one, I went with him because, you know, he didn't require a lot of money up front. And one thing you have to do is you have to align on what payment is going to look like. So for example, our process is this. You go into my property, we agree on a scope of work, I meet with you, and for that week, okay, if we have a 4-month window to flip something or to renovate and rehab something, and I'm trying to get that done within a 3 to 4 month window, then we're gonna meet weekly and we're gonna know the scope of work that's gonna be done this week. So on a Sunday, let's just say, Dennis, I'm gonna like abuse you for a minute because I see you're on here. Let's just say Dennis is my contractor. I'm gonna talk to Dennis on a Sunday and be like, okay, Dennis, like what's the scope of work for this week? What's gonna get done? When is it gonna be done? What resources are you using? How much labor? Like everything, the whole nine. It's all part of that BRRRR form that I used and shared with you guys a few months ago. And if you don't have access to that, just comment below and we'll try and get you a copy of that. But you're gonna set it up on a timeline and you're gonna meet with the contractor weekly. And you don't have to bug the shit out of this person every day, all day. If you do it this way and you meet on Sunday, agree on the scope of work. And also if they say, well, we're doing bathrooms this week, bitchin', do the bathrooms. When you're done, I wanna see a picture of all the toilets installed. I wanna see a picture of all the caulking. I wanna see a picture of everything done, right? And as soon as I get those pictures and the inspector comes to verify it, I'm gonna go ahead and send you the draw. That's how you do business. You don't just keep sending them money and sending them money and sending them money without verifying the work. And that, I mean, that's with remote investing or not remote investing. You have to verify the work, right? So we have a process where our contractors will do the work, send us the picture. Once that picture is in, we save it. We can get the hard money draw to send them the money. Or if it's a private money that's somebody that we've partnered with, we can get the private money and send it to them. But we only pay for completed work. Okay, so I would highly suggest, let's say you send 3 to 5 people out, you get, okay, 3 really good bids, you make some calls, you identify the one contractor that seems like they're a good fit for you, don't require a lot of capital up front, you identify, hey, I only pay for, you know, completed work, and here's what I need from you, I need the pictures emailed to me, I need this to happen, oh, and P.S., by the way, I have this inspector that's gonna come inspect it. That's a jaw-dropping, wait, what the hell do you mean an inspector's gonna come inspect it? Shit, okay. That's also another point where you might find, oh, well, I don't want an inspector coming in, and they might give some pushback. If they give pushback, then that's a red flag, right? They should be okay with the inspector coming in and doing those things. In the past, I will tell you in a deal that I have seen where somebody staged HVAC to send the picture. They staged the HVAC. The inspector caught it, called me and said, that's all staged shit. So I didn't send the contractor the payment. In fact, that literally means go find another contractor to finish the job, which can be shitty if you don't root that or vet that out early. But if the inspector wasn't there and I sent payment for the staged HVAC, like all the duct was staged, it looked like it was finished. But when the inspector goes in there and taps on stuff and moves stuff and realizes, oh shit, Jen, hold on a second, it's not done. He has everything, it's ready, but it's not put all together. So he's actually behind the ball. If you don't have that process in place for those checks and balances, you could find yourself losing some money, right? So you want to make sure that that's how you leverage the inspector. Another thing that we do if the inspector is not available is we have the realtor who we use this, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it's like a video walkie-talkie service called Marco Polo. Our entire business is ran off of Marco Polo. We will have the contractor, when they finish work, they got to send me a Marco Polo. In fact, when they first get to the property to begin with. So I have video after video after video for each property of each stage of work being done and what the property looked like when we first got it versus at the very end, the final inspection, okay? Now, during that process, if you're using, whether it's Marco Polo or you have them FaceTime you or whatever the mechanics that you use to see what they're doing, at the end of the week. So on a Sunday, we pull up and we have our meeting. Okay, cool, man. So I got the Marco Polo showing the completed work. Everything's in line. That looks really good. So now what's next week look like? Cool. So here, when can I expect to get the next Marco Polo if you're doing the kitchen? You know, and just really have clear and consistent communication with them. If you're doing that, it alleviates a lot of problems. So now, one of the biggest questions that we get is like, what do we do about permits and, you know, all of those particular things? And so we always say, you know, you want to hire a GC, hire a general contractor that literally handles all of the subs for you. All of the subcontractors, everything that they're doing, the general contractor hires that. Now that general contractor needs to be licensed, bonded, insured, everything. You want to make sure it's like to the nines, right? That general contractor needs to be local to the property. They need to be able to go there, right? And they need to know, they're the ones that you're meeting with every Sunday or each week to go over what the scope of work looks like and all the things that you're doing. So I just want to make sure, if you want to know what that process looks like, we use Marco Polo. We've used FaceTime before. We have them go out there and we will look at it throughout the week so that by the time we sit down on Sunday, we've already seen the videos, you know. It's not like we're just calling them every day and hounding them. They've sent a video, we've looked at it. If anything looks wonky, we respond, right? But if it looks like it's cool, talk to you Sunday, perfect, what's next, you know, and have that cadence, just establish that general cadence going forward. It's like a mutual respect and really clear communication about it. Now that whole process just keeps rinsing and repeating throughout the entire scope of renovation. By the time everything is done and it gets down to final inspection, you do need to have a process for final inspection, right? So the contractor, you have them, they can go through Marco Polo, they can go through FaceTime, they can do this however it's comfortable, whatever you guys agree to, where you watch it and it's gonna be, you know, you're walking through it and you see everything. Your realtor is gonna go do it. And then you're also gonna have the inspector go do it. So these are all of the controls and systems that we put in place to mitigate any risk, any kind of risk or any kind of mishap. So some common things that you'll see, people will have, oh man, I lost a lot of money to a contractor, is because, you know, the vetting process. We have an ironclad vetting, how we vet our contractors out. There's a checklist of everything that we give in terms of what to look for. And then looking through, how am I going to set up payment with this person? And, you know, really just establishing payment for completed work. If you are paying in advance for work, you are doing it incorrectly. You are putting and exposing yourself to a lot of risk. So we just advise that you don't do it that way, all right? And then one of the other key differentiators is having an inspector and having your realtor. Now, depending on whether or not you're flipping or if you are buying and holding, that's going to be like kind of dependent on how involved your realtor is going to be. If you are flipping, your realtor is probably going to be like, yeah, sure. Because if they know that you're approaching this whole business model in terms of flipping in volume, and you go to them and you say, hey man, I'm buying this property and pretty soon, you know, I'm going to flip it and I'm going to sell it. And when I sell it, I'll list it with you. So now they're getting the buying commissions when you buy it. And they know that when you list it, you're going to list it with them at a higher ARV and a higher percentage. So of course, all realtors are going to be like, how the hell do I work with you on a regular basis? So flipping in that model, it can be very, very good, because then you find realtors that just love you to death and you love them to death and you work together and you just become best friends and make money. It's great. If you're buying and holding, same thing. You know that realtor, if they know you're going to continue to buy in that network, they're going to continue looking for deals for you because they want things to be lucrative for you too, so that you keep coming back to them to try and dominate that market. So it's all about the relationships that you build. And if you call upon them and say, hey man, can you just go check this out for the final inspection, whether it's for sale or we're going to go for rent, they will usually be more than happy to help out. We rely heavily on inspectors though, because they know what they're looking for more than realtors do. The realtor can go in and look and say, God, this is not ready to show. So, you know, it's not really ready. It's not rent ready. It's not for sale ready. These are some things and we'll get a punch list together of things that might not have happened and might need to be polished, fine-tuned, whatever. And then we have a punch list that we go through with the contractor that Sunday. All right, when is this going to get done? And then we just keep that on track until everything is wrapped up.
All right. All that being said, let's talk about taking action. If you're just here to watch and get more information, cool, you're good to go. But if you are done watching other people continue to buy property while you're just watching that happen, and you want to get started yourself, or you've started but you're ready to scale, we have set aside time to do a strategy session with you. In order to book a strategy session, what you need to do is text the word freedom to 619-373-8461. That's going to take you to a calendar page where you can book a call with one of our strategists and start taking the next steps to either getting your first investment property or taking next steps to start scaling your business. We look forward to seeing you on the other side.